I'm just going to read a few extracts from my book, The File Note. The blurb on the back describes it briefly as follows. James Hadfield is a middle-aged solicitor with Timmins and Associates in the sleepy village of Kilcredden. The death of Lord Barrington, his firm's most important client, is immediately viewed with suspicion in the locality, and a high-profile murder inquiry is soon underway. As more deaths follow, a handwritten note found by Hadfield throws him into the middle of the investigation, along with Hilary, the office manager, Mick, the law clerk, and Lucinda, the new apprentice. Hadfield's friend Fitzherbert, a senior counsel specialising in criminal law, quickly finds himself involved as they try to piece together what happened. All the beneficiaries of the Barrington will are suspects, while none have an alibi, and it seems that Hadfield may even be in the frame himself. Love is also in the air, but where exactly that might lead is not entirely clear. Will Hadfield solve the mystery and help apprehend the guilty party before he, she or they can strike again? With more twists and turns than an old country road, The File Note is a classic page-turner that offers intrigue and romance in equal measure. So, I'm just going to read an extract from the beginning of the book. Hadfield has joined his boss, Mr. Timmins, as they go to, I suppose, the wake for Lord Barrington. They've just entered the drawing room where a lot of the Barrington family are present, and the excerpt I'm going to read it goes as follows. Heads turned as they entered the drawing room. Hadfield himself had quite a striking appearance. He was a tall man and quite thin, but still athletic for someone fast approaching 40. His sandy brown hair was offset by dark, straight eyebrows and a long aquiline nose. Most distinctive were his eyes, which are deep green with tiny flecks of varying shades of brown. He stood behind Timmins as Lady Barrington approached. She was quite tall herself and slim, with long black hair, and although she was likely to be approaching 70, she looked well on it. Indeed, she was very beautiful, with porcelain skin and clear blue eyes. Andrew, that's Mr. Timmins, by the way, thank you for coming. Of course, Lydia, you know my colleague James Hadfield. Yes, I think we may have met at the office. My condolences, Lady Barrington. As Timmins commiserated with his client, Hadfield looked around the large room and the various people who were present. Lord Barrington had 3 children from his first marriage. The eldest was Richard, who was about the same age as Hadfield, followed by Samantha, who was about a year younger, and Jasmine, who was in her mid-20s. Their mother had died in a horse riding accident 2 years previously, and Lord Barrington had married Lydia the following year. There was a young, good-looking couple whom he did not know, talking to Jasmine. He did recognise Reverend Devereux, but not the 2 rather strict-looking women to whom the Reverend was holding forth. One of these women looked somewhat similar to Lady Barrington. She was tall and thin with long black hair. While she might have been described as beautiful, somehow Lady Barrington appeared to be the more attractive. Perhaps the strictness of the stranger's demeanour was the difference. Albert Boyd, the local bank manager, was deep in conversation with Richard's wife, Margaret. The one other person in the room was Samantha's husband, Dennis Russell, who was now making a beeline towards him. He was considerably shorter than Hadfield, but quite dapper, with the little hair he had sleeked back to such an extent that it created something of a sheen. He wore black-rimmed 1950s style spectacles. These must have been quite strong, because it made his eyes appear to protrude a little disconcertingly. Hadfield, isn't it? With Timmins. That's right. Used to dabble in it myself. Oh, yes, in Dublin. Corporate primarily. Gave it up when I married Samantha and moved down here. You weren't tempted to go into practice locally? Not a bit. Found my true vocation in the arts. There's the musical society, of course. A lot of my time needed for that. You don't sing yourself, do you? We could always use an extra man. Our next production is The Mikado. No. Singing wouldn't be one of my strengths. Oh well, but you will attend one of the shows. Not long now until opening night. A raised voice prevented Hadfield from replying. Well, they won't be here a minute longer, as far as I'm concerned. They've long overstayed as it is. That's not your decision to make. I can have any of my friends for as long as I like. Not when the estate comes to me, assuming it does. And anyway, Daddy always said I could stay here as long as I wished. But not with any sponges that happened to be in tow. He was going to give them their marching orders soon enough. Wasn't too impressed finding the 3 of you in bed last weekend. I'm sure that was to be part of the announcement. I explained all that to him. It was, please, interjected Lady Barrington. Richard, Jasmine, really? I can't take any more of this, exclaimed Jasmine, sinking back into a couch and sobbing loudly. She was a striking young girl who tended to catch attention wherever she went. Her dark, Her dark bobbed hair, pale visage, full red lips, and sparkling blue eyes were difficult to ignore, although at the moment most of his features were covered with a handkerchief as she dabbed her eyes. Richard turned away and went to refill his glass. He was similar in appearance to his father, tall, broad-shouldered, and with a ruddy complexion, although he didn't sport a moustache. His temperament was known to have much in common with his father too, with a tendency to be gruff, not always helped by a short temper. "I'll introduce you to the interlopers," said Dennis. "Actually," he added in a low whisper, "before I do, a question. Do you know if George actually signed a new will?" "No idea, I'm afraid. You'd need to ask Mr. Timmins on that." "No matter," he replied, leading Hadfield over to the young couple, who appeared to be the subject of the earlier contretemps. "Scott, Penny, I want to introduce you to James Hadfield." That's the excerpt from the beginning of it.